Hey everyone, welcome back. We're kicking off today's deep dive.
Into the fascinating world of personal development.
Oh, absolutely.
Specifically,
Yeah.
we're going to be looking at how to conquer worry and
Yeah.
find happiness.
Find that happiness and, our guide for this journey.
Our roadmap
Yeah.
is Dale Carnegie's
How to,
How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
yes, how to stop worrying and start living. And it's packed with advice.
And incredible stories.
Oh, incredible real life
And
story.
life stories, yeah.
Like, have you heard of the guy who walked away from a job?
Oh, yeah.
He hated to become a writer
Yeah.
and ended up creating a world famous book.
Classic story.
It's just one of the many we'll be unpacking today.
And what's so cool about this book is that Carnegie doesn't just tell stories.
Right.
He backs up his ideas with insights from doctors,
Yeah.
psychologists, and everyday people who've faced some pretty intense challenges.
So it's like a roadmap
It is.
to a more peaceful life.
Yeah, more fulfilling life.
I'm already hooked.
Me too.
So let's start with the big question.
Okay, shoot.
Why should we even care about worry?
Right.
I mean, everyone worries sometimes.
True.
Right.
But Carnegie makes a pretty bold claim right off the bat.
Okay.
He says 70% of patients visiting doctors could actually cure themselves
Really?
by simply getting rid of fear and worry.
Wow.
He even draws a direct link
Okay.
between worry and physical problems like ulcers,
Oh,
heart
yeah.
issues, insomnia.
So you're saying our thoughts can actually make us physically sick?
It's mind-blowing.
It is kind of mind-blowing.
It is, and Carnegie presents some pretty compelling evidence from the doctors he interviewed.
Okay.
One physician, Dr. O.F. Gobert, who worked for the Santa Fe Railway,
Okay.
noticed a pattern
Yeah.
among his patients.
Okay.
He saw people struggling with real diagnosable illnesses like stomach ulcers and heart problems.
Yeah.
And he believed that a lot of these issues stemmed directly from the tension and nervousness brought on by worry.
Oh, so he's saying that worry can actually mess with our stomach nerves.
Yeah.
And even change our gastric juices.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
It is wild.
I guess we've all felt that knot in our stomach when we're stressed out.
Yeah.
But to think it could actually lead to ulcers?
Right. And Carnegie doesn't shy away from sharing some pretty dramatic stories to drive home this point. Like
So,
the story of a restaurant owner who actually died from anger just because his cook
really?
drank coffee from a saucer.
Okay, that's a bit extreme.
Okay.
I can't imagine getting that worked up over coffee etiquette.
Right.
But I guess it's striking that our emotions can have such a powerful impact on our health.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how important it is to find healthy ways to manage stress and anxiety.
Absolutely. And that's where Carnegie's advice comes in.
Okay, give it to me.
He offers a technique called living in day-tight compartments.
Living in
Day-tight compartments.
day-tight compartments, okay.
Which might sound a bit technical,
Yeah.
but it's actually a really powerful way to deal with worry.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me. What exactly are day-tight compartments?
It's a concept inspired by a famous physician, Sir William Osier.
Okay.
Imagine a ship with separate watertight compartments.
Right.
If one compartment gets flooded,
Yeah,
it doesn't sink the whole ship.
right.
Well, the idea is to apply the same principle to our lives.
Okay.
We mentally seal off the past
Mm.
and the future,
Okay.
focusing solely on the present moment.
So it's like creating mental boundaries to prevent the worries of yesterday and tomorrow from spilling over into today.
Exactly.
I like that.
And to really illustrate this,
Okay.
Carnegie shares the story of a soldier named Ted Benjamino,
Okay.
who was suffering from severe combat fatigue during the war.
Oh.
He was on the verge of a breakdown, completely overwhelmed by the stress
Yeah.
and the fear of making mistakes in his role, which involved documenting casualties.
I can't imagine the mental and emotional toll that must have taken.
It was, and Benjamino was really struggling. Yeah.
But then an army doctor shared a simple phrase
Okay.
that completely changed his perspective.
What was it?
One grain of sand at a time, one task at a time.
Wow. That's powerful in its simplicity. So how did that help him?
By focusing on one small task at a time, Benjamino was able to break down the overwhelming situation into manageable steps.
Oh, okay.
It gave him a sense of control
Yeah,
in the midst of chaos.
I like that.
And guess what?
What?
He later applied the same technique to his civilian life, finding it just as helpful for managing everyday stress.
So even if we're not facing a literal battlefield, this idea of breaking down challenges and staying present can still apply.
Right. It's about finding those little anchors
Yeah,
in the present moment, no matter what's going on around you.
I like that. It feels very doable.
It is.
Okay,
Anyway,
so living in day-tight compartments is one way to manage worry.
that's one.
What else does Carnegie suggest?
He also emphasizes the importance of accepting the inevitable.
Accepting the inevitable. Yeah, he argues that fighting against life's challenges, especially the things we can't control,
Right.
just creates more suffering.
Okay.
Instead, we should aim to cooperate with life's circumstances, even the tough ones.
So it's about learning to go with the flow rather than resisting everything that comes our way.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he illustrates this beautifully with the story of Booth Tarkington, a novelist,
Okay.
who lost his eyesight.
Oh, wow.
He endured over 12 operations in a year.
Oh, my goodness.
But instead of bitterness, he chose to accept his fate with incredible grace, even finding humor in the midst of his challenges.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I guess it shows that our attitude really does make a difference in how we experience difficult situations.
it does. And
Yeah.
then there's William Caecilius,
Okay.
who had the terrifying job of supervising explosives during the war.
Oh,
One wrong move, and, well, you can
yeah,
imagine.
not a job for the faint of heart.
Right.
Yeah.
And while he was initially overwhelmed by fear, Caecilius found a way to accept the situation. He reasoned that if the ship blew up, he wouldn't know the difference anyway.
Okay, that's a pretty morbid way to look at it. But I get his point. By accepting what he couldn't control, he was able to find a strange kind of peace and carry on with his duties.
It's a powerful example of how shifting our perspective can help us manage even the most intense fears.
These stories are incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what are some of the practical things we can do to shift our perspective when we're feeling overwhelmed by worry?
Well, Carnegie dives into the power of our thoughts,
Okay.
which is something you might find especially helpful.
Yeah.
He even quotes the Roman emperor Marcus Aurelius,
Okay.
who said, "Our life is what our thoughts make it."
I've heard that quote before,
It's a good one.
but it's easy to forget how powerful our thoughts really are.
It's true.
Yeah.
And Carnegie backs this up with some pretty amazing stories.
Okay.
Take Mary Baker Eddy, for example.
Okay.
She was a woman who overcame a serious illness
Okay.
and went on to found Christian Science, a whole religion based on the power of thought.
So she basically believed that she healed herself
Uh-huh.
by changing her mindset. That's quite a testament to the power of positive thinking.
It is, and it resonates with a lot of modern self-help and psychology theories.
Right.
Carnegie even talks about an experiment by a British psychiatrist, J.A. Hadfield,
Yeah.
who showed how our thoughts can actually affect our physical strength.
Really? How did he do that?
He had people grip a dynamometer,
A what?
which measures strength,
Okay.
while thinking about depressing things.
Mm.
Then he had them grip it again while imagining something inspiring.
Okay.
And you know what?
What?
Their grip was significantly weaker when they focused on negative thoughts.
That's incredible. So it's not just about feeling better. Our thoughts can actually make us physically stronger.
Uh-huh. That's pretty motivating.
It is pretty motivating to focus on the positive.
Absolutely. It shows that we have more control over our experiences than we might realize.
Okay, this is where I think things get really interesting. Carnegie argues that one of the best ways to find happiness is through giving,
Okay.
but not in the way you might think.
How so?
He says it's about giving without expecting anything in return.
That's a concept that goes against our natural inclination to seek rewards for our actions.
It does.
Yeah.
But Carnegie believes that when we focus on contributing to others without demanding gratitude
Right.
or recognition, we unlock a deeper kind of fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
He even shares a story about his own parents,
Oh, wow.
who found joy in supporting an orphanage despite their own financial struggles.
They were a living example that true happiness doesn't come from getting, but from giving freely.
Exactly.
And to show the other side of this,
Okay.
Carnegie contrasts their story with a woman who was consumed by a lack of gratitude from others.
Oh, I know the type always keeping score of who owes them a favor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she ended up creating a toxic environment around her. She
Right.
was so focused on what she thought she deserved that she missed out on the true joy of giving.
It's like that saying, you can't keep what you don't give away. It seems like by holding on to that need for recognition, she actually blocked herself from receiving it.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
And then Carnegie introduces us to Aunt Viola,
Aunt Viola.
who is basically the embodiment of selfless love and kindness.
Okay.
She showered her children with affection, never demanding anything in return.
Wow.
And guess what?
What?
They adored her. They couldn't get enough of her.
That's so heartwarming. It sounds like she created a beautiful cycle of love and generosity simply by giving without any strings attached.
She did, and it's a powerful reminder that true happiness often comes from within,
Yeah.
from the act of giving itself, rather than from any external validation.
It makes you think about the things you value most in life and where you're focusing your energy. Are you chasing external rewards, or are you finding fulfillment in contributing to something bigger than yourself?
That's a great question for everyone listening to ponder. What are you giving to the world,
Yeah.
and what are you receiving in return?
What are you receiving in return? I
Yeah,
like that.
good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the power of perspective,
Yeah.
accepting what we can't control and finding happiness through giving.
Mhm.
But let's get real for a second. There's another huge source of worry that's on a lot of people's minds.
Oh, yeah.
Finding your place in the world.
Finding your place.
Have you ever felt that pressure to figure out your true calling?
Your calling.
Yeah, that thing you're meant to do.
It's a common struggle.
It is.
And Carnegie dedicates a whole section to this idea of finding your unique place.
Okay.
He believes that discovering and pursuing your passion
Yeah.
is crucial not just for happiness, but even for your health.
Okay, so it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
If you're stuck in a job you hate,
Mm,
it's going to affect your mental and physical well-being.
absolutely.
But how do you even begin to figure out what your true calling is?
Well, Carnegie suggests a few things.
Okay.
First, don't be afraid to explore different fields,
Yeah.
even if they seem unconventional.
Okay.
He shares the story of Philip Johnson,
Yes.
who went from running a family laundry business
Huh?
to becoming the president of the Boeing Aircraft Company.
Wow, from washing clothes to building airplanes, that takes guts.
That's a big leap.
It shows that sometimes you have to take a leap of faith to find your true path.
It does.
Yeah.
And then there's H.V. Kaltenborn,
Okay.
who took a door-to-door sales job in France.
Okay.
Even though he didn't speak a word of French.
Oh, wow.
He could have easily
Yeah.
let that language barrier defeat him, but instead he turned it into a comedic advantage,
Really?
using props and memorized pitches to connect with customers.
That's brilliant. He turned a potential disaster into an opportunity to be creative and resourceful.
He did. He adapted and thrived.
It reminds me of that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It's about finding ways to adapt and thrive, even when faced with unexpected challenges.
It is. And speaking of challenges,
Yes.
let's tackle the big one.
The big one.
That's probably on a lot of your minds right now.
Okay.
Money.
Money, yes.
Carnegie acknowledges that financial worries are incredibly common.
Yeah.
In fact, he says they make up about 70% of our worries.
70% I can definitely relate to, that money worries can be all-consuming.
They can be.
Do you have any advice on how to manage those anxieties?
Well, Carnegie introduces us to Elsie Stapleton,
Okay.
a budget expert who worked with people across all income levels.
Okay.
She emphasizes that often it's not about the amount of money you have,
Okay.
but how you manage it.
So it's not necessarily about earning more.
Right.
It's about being smarter with what you've got.
Exactly. Carnegie also warns against the dangers of getting caught in a cycle of debt,
Oh, yeah?
especially borrowing from loan sharks who prey on vulnerable people.
That's scary.
He even shares some harrowing stories about the predatory practices of these lenders.
That's a good reminder to be cautious and to seek help from reputable sources like banks
Absolutely.
if you're struggling financially.
Right. Banks are often willing to work with people to develop a plan to get back on track.
Okay.
They're more likely to offer fair terms and guidance, unlike those predatory lenders.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Finding your passion, managing your money,
Yeah.
accepting the things you can't control. But I'm still curious about those practical tips you mentioned earlier for conquering worry.
Oh, yeah, those practical tips. Well,
Yeah.
Carnegie offers several strategies that you can start using today.
Give them to me.
One of his main recommendations
Yeah.
is to keep busy
Oh,
and occupy your mind with constructive activities.
it's like that saying, an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Right.
If you're just sitting around dwelling on your worries, they're only going to grow bigger.
Exactly. By engaging in activities you enjoy or working towards a goal, you shift your focus away from those anxieties and channel your energy into something positive.
That makes sense. What else can we do?
Carnegie also suggests using the law of averages
The law of averages.
to our advantage when it comes to worrying.
Okay.
Think about it.
Okay.
We often worry about things that are statistically unlikely to happen.
Like worrying about getting struck by lightning
Yeah.
or winning the lottery.
Exactly. While those things are possible,
Yeah.
the odds are pretty slim.
Right.
By understanding probabilities
Okay.
and focusing on what's most likely,
Yeah.
we can reduce anxieties about those far-fetched scenarios.
So it's about being realistic, not paranoid. I like that. What about those specific tactics you mentioned?
Well, one simple but effective technique
Yeah.
is to write down your worries.
Write down your words.
Sometimes just getting them out of your head
Yeah.
and onto paper can help you gain perspective.
It's like you're forcing yourself to confront those worries head on instead of letting them swirl around in your mind.
Right. Another tip is to break down large problems into smaller, more manageable steps. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the enormity of a task,
Yeah.
focus on tackling one piece at a time.
It's like eating an elephant one bite at a time.
Exactly.
Okay.
And perhaps most importantly, Carnegie encourages us to focus on the 90% of things
90%.
that are going right in our lives,
Okay.
rather than dwelling on the negative 10%.
It's so easy to get caught up in the things that are wrong.
It is.
But consciously choosing to focus on the good can really shift your perspective.
It's about cultivating an attitude of gratitude.
Yes.
And speaking of finding solace and strength,
Okay.
Carnegie also explores the role of faith in conquering worry.
So is he suggesting that everyone needs to be religious to stop worrying?
Not necessarily. He acknowledges that religious faith can provide a sense of peace and strength
Yeah.
for many people, especially when facing adversity.
Okay.
He even shares the story of Admiral Byrd,
Admiral Byrd.
who endured 5 months of isolation in the Antarctic
Oh, wow.
and relied heavily on his faith to get through it.
That's an incredible example of resilience.
It is.
But what about those of us who aren't particularly religious?
Yeah.
Is there still something we can take away from this?
Absolutely. Carnegie points out that prayer, even for those who aren't traditionally religious, can fulfill a basic psychological need.
Okay.
It can provide a sense of hope, purpose, and connection,
Mm-hmm.
which can be incredibly helpful when you're feeling lost or overwhelmed.
So it's not necessarily about praying to a specific deity,
Right?
but about finding something larger than yourself to believe in something that gives you comfort and guidance.
Exactly. And even if organized religion isn't your thing,
Yeah.
there are other ways to cultivate that sense of connection and purpose.
Like what?
Maybe it's through nature art music or spending time with loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding what resonates with you
Yeah.
and helps you feel grounded.
This is all great advice, but I think there's one area that a lot of people struggle with, especially in today's world, dealing with criticism.
Criticism.
It's so easy to take things personally and let negative feedback get under your skin.
It is, and Carnegie acknowledges that criticism can be tough to handle,
Yeah.
but he also makes an interesting point.
Okay.
He says that criticism can actually be a sign of accomplishment.
Wait, so you're saying that getting criticized is a good thing?
Hear me out.
Okay.
Carnegie argues that when people criticize you,
Yeah.
it often means you're doing something noteworthy.
Okay.
You're putting yourself out there,
Mm.
taking risks, and making an impact.
Yeah.
If you were blending into the background,
Yeah.
no one would bother criticizing you, right?
That's an interesting way to look at it.
It is.
So it's not about avoiding criticism altogether,
Right.
but about learning how to handle it constructively.
Exactly. And Carnegie makes an important distinction.
Okay, with that.
He says we need to differentiate
Okay.
between constructive criticism,
Oh.
which can be helpful for growth,
Mm-hmm.
and unjust attacks,
Okay.
which should be disregarded.
So how do you tell the difference?
It takes practice and discernment.
Yeah.
Constructive criticism is usually specific, focused on your actions or work,
Oh, okay.
and offered with the intention of helping you improve.
Okay.
Unjust attacks, on the other hand,
Yeah.
are often personal, aimed at your character or worth,
Mm-hmm.
and come from a place of negativity or malice.
So if someone's just trying to tear you down, it's best to just tune them out.
Exactly. Carnegie even suggests that sometimes criticism stems from insecurity on the part of the critic.
Oh, really?
They might feel threatened by your accomplishments
Okay.
and resort to negativity as a way to feel superior.
So it's not always about you. It's often a reflection of their own issues that's a helpful reminder
Yeah,
when you're feeling attacked or misunderstood.
it is. And Carnegie shares the story of Robert Hutchins,
Robert Hutchins.
a young university president who faced intense criticism early in his career.
Oh, wow.
Instead of letting the negativity derail him,
Yeah.
he focused on his goals and used the constructive feedback to refine his approach. Ultimately, he achieved great success.
It's a powerful reminder that you don't have to let criticism dictate your path. You can choose to learn from it, grow from it, or simply let it roll off your back.
Now let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about something that might seem a bit surprising in a book about worry.
Okay, what's that?
Fatigue.
Fatigue. Why is he talking about fatigue in a book about worry? I don't see the connection.
Because, as Carnegie explains, fatigue often makes us more susceptible to worry when we're tired.
Yeah.
Our physical and mental resistance is lowered,
Yeah.
making us more vulnerable to anxieties and negative thoughts.
So it's like when you're exhausted, everything seems worse
Yeah.
than it actually is.
It's like looking at the world through a pair of dark glasses. Everything seems dimmer and more daunting.
So what can we do about it? I'm always tired. It feels like that's just part of modern life.
Well, Carnegie offers some surprisingly simple but effective advice.
Okay, I'm ready.
His first tip is to rest often. And I mean really rest.
Like taking naps?
He emphasizes resting before you actually feel tired. Think of it as preemptively recharging your batteries before they completely drain.
So it's not about waiting until you're completely burnt out,
No.
but about incorporating regular rest into your routine.
Exactly. Even highly successful people like Thomas Edison and Sam Goldwyn
Oh, wow.
were known for taking regular naps to maintain their energy levels.
So even geniuses need their downtime.
They do.
I guess that makes me feel better about my afternoon slump.
Absolutely. And aside from rest, Carnegie also emphasizes the importance of relaxation.
Relaxation.
He stresses learning to relax even while you're working.
That sounds nice in theory, but how do you actually relax when you're in the middle of a stressful project or deadline?
Carnegie suggests paying attention to your posture,
Okay.
avoiding unnecessary muscle tension,
Okay.
and taking breaks to stretch and move around. Even small adjustments
Yeah.
can make a big difference in how you feel.
So it's about being mindful of your body and how you're holding yourself. I know I tend to tense up when I'm stressed, so that's definitely something I need to work on.
And don't forget about mental relaxation.
Mental relaxation.
Carnegie encourages using affirmations and mental imagery to calm your mind and release stress.
It's like giving your brain a mini vacation.
Exactly. And speaking of things that can be draining,
Oh, here we go.
Carnegie even addresses a specific type of fatigue
Okay.
that many people experience:
What's that?
housewife fatigue.
Wait, is that a real thing?
Absolutely. Carnegie cites a study of housewives in Boston who were suffering from various ailments,
Oh, wow.
many of which stemmed from worry and stress.
I guess it's easy to underestimate the mental and emotional toll of running a household
Yeah,
and caring for a family.
right. And Carnegie emphasizes that housewives need to find ways to alleviate this fatigue
Yeah.
and prioritize their well-being.
Okay.
He suggests seeking out activities that bring them joy and fulfillment
Yep.
outside of their domestic responsibilities,
Got it.
finding ways to simplify housework, and not being afraid to ask for help.
So it's not about adding more to their already full plates, but about carving out time for self-care
Yeah,
and finding support.
exactly. And remember, self-care isn't selfish.
Right.
It's essential for maintaining your physical and mental health.
Absolutely.
Now, let's circle back to those financial worries
Okay, yes.
we were talking about earlier. It's a topic that deserves a deeper dive, wouldn't you say?
Definitely money worries can be a major source of stress.
Yeah.
And it feels like they're on everyone's mind these days, especially with the uncertain economy.
Especially these days.
What are some of Carnegie's insights on this?
Well, he reminds us that a lot of financial stress stems from a lack of knowledge
Okay.
about how to manage money effectively.
Oh.
Remember Elsie Stapleton, the budget expert we mentioned earlier?
Yes, the one who said it's not about how much money you have,
Yeah.
but how you manage it.
Right. Carnegie echoes her sentiment and encourages taking a proactive approach to your finances
Oh.
by creating a budget, tracking expenses,
Right.
and making informed spending decisions.
So it's about taking control.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like your finances are controlling you.
Exactly. And he also cautions against the allure of get-rich-quick schemes
Oh, yeah.
and risky investments.
I know those types, always chasing the next big thing,
Yeah.
but often ending up worse off than they started.
It's a reminder to focus on building wealth
Hmm.
through sound financial practices
Yeah.
rather than chasing after unrealistic promises.
Okay.
And if you're struggling, don't be afraid to seek professional advice.
That's a great point. There are resources available to help you make informed decisions
There are.
and develop a plan for financial stability.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
Right.
Financial worries are incredibly common,
Yeah.
and there's no shame in seeking help.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Managing worry, finding your passion,
It's a lot.
dealing with criticism, and even conquering fatigue.
Yeah.
It's amazing how interconnected all these aspects of life are.
It is, and I think that's one of the key takeaways from Carnegie's book.
Okay.
It's about approaching life holistically
Hmm.
and recognizing that our mental, emotional, and physical well-being are all intertwined.
And it's not just about reading a book and then forgetting about it.
No.
It's about actively applying these principles
Yeah,
to your daily life and making them a part of who you are.
exactly.
Yeah.
And to really drive home this point,
Okay.
Carnegie includes a whole section of personal stories
Okay.
from people who've used his principles to overcome a wide range of challenges.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more about these personal stories. These personal stories sound fascinating. It's one thing to hear the principles, but it's another to see how they actually play out in people's lives.
Mhm.
Do any of these stories particularly stand out to you?
There are so many great ones, but one that always sticks with me is C.I. Blackwood's story.
Okay.
He was hit with six major troubles all at once.
Okay.
His business was failing.
Oh, no.
His daughter was about to start college with no funds. And even his well went dry.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine the worry he must have been feeling?
A lot.
I can definitely relate to feeling like everything's going wrong at the same time.
Right, and Blackwood was really feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
But then he stumbled across an old list he'd made 18 months earlier,
Okay.
listing all his worries at the time.
Okay.
And guess what? Not a single one of them had actually come to pass.
Wow, that's a powerful reminder that we often spend so much energy worrying about things that never actually happen.
Yeah, it's like our minds create these worst-case scenarios that rarely, if ever, come true.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And this brings us back to the importance of perspective.
it does.
When we step back and look at our worries objectively,
Yeah,
we often realize they're not as insurmountable as they initially seem.
right,
So it's not about ignoring our problems,
right.
but about approaching them with a clear head and a sense of proportion.
Exactly. Another inspiring story is Elmer Thomas's journey
Okay.
from a self-conscious farm boy to a United States senator.
Wow.
He faced so many challenges early in life: poverty, social awkwardness,
Yeah.
even a speech impediment.
Oh, my goodness.
He was teased mercilessly for his appearance, and it really affected his confidence.
It's amazing how those early experiences can shape our beliefs about ourselves.
Right.
It sounds like he had to overcome a lot of self-doubt to achieve what he did.
He did, and it was his mother who really encouraged him to step outside his comfort zone.
Okay.
She urged him to enter a public speaking contest at the county fair.
Oh, wow.
And much to everyone's surprise, he won.
That must have been a huge turning point for him.
It was that victory ignited a newfound confidence within him, and it ultimately led him to pursue a career in politics. It just goes to show that sometimes all it takes is one small win to change the course of your life.
It's so inspiring to hear how people have overcome these seemingly impossible odds.
It gives you hope.
It gives you hope that you can do the same. Are there any other stories that you think might resonate with our listeners?
Oh, there are so many, but one that stands out is RVC Bodley's experience. He actually abandoned his hectic life in Europe to live amongst the Arabs in the Sahara Desert.
That's quite a shift. What prompted him to make such a drastic change?
He was searching for a simpler, more peaceful way of life, and he found it in the desert. He learned to appreciate the present moment and let go of the anxieties that plagued him in his former life.
It sounds like he found a way to detach from the constant worries and distractions of modern life.
He did, and it's a powerful reminder that sometimes a change of scenery and perspective can be incredibly helpful in breaking free from negative thought patterns.
That's a great point. Sometimes you need to step outside your comfort zone to gain a fresh perspective on your life.
Absolutely. And speaking of perspective,
Yes.
there's a story from Professor William Lyon Phelps,
Okay.
who offered 5 methods for banishing worry.
5. Oh.
Okay. One of his key tips was to relax while working, avoiding the trap of hurry and tension. He also stressed the importance of keeping troubles in perspective, reminding himself that in a few months he wouldn't be worrying about the current issue anyway.
That's so true. It's like when you look back on a stressful situation from a year ago
Yeah.
and you think, why was I even worried about that?
Exactly. It's about recognizing that most things are temporary
Yeah.
and that our worries often fade with time.
I also appreciate his advice about forcing himself to think positive thoughts.
Yeah.
When negativity creeps in,
Yeah.
it's so easy to get caught up in a spiral of worry.
It is.
But consciously choosing to focus on the good can really shift your mindset.
Absolutely. It's about training your mind to look for the good, even in challenging situations.
So many of these stories highlight the importance of resilience,
They do.
but finding ways to bounce back from adversity.
They do, and one of the most powerful examples of this is Dorothy Dix's story.
Okay.
She faced poverty and illness, but she kept going by focusing on what she could control, taking things one day at a time, and reminding herself that she had overcome challenges in the past.
It's so inspiring to see how people have found strength and hope even in the darkest of times.
It is, and it speaks to the power of the human spirit. Now, here's a story that might resonate with anyone who's ever experienced a major setback. J.C. Penney, the founder of the famous retail chain, hit rock bottom during a financial crisis.
Wow. I can't imagine what that must have been like for him to go from building a successful business to facing financial ruin. That must have been devastating.
It was, and he was consumed by worry. He actually developed a severe case of shingles and even wrote farewell letters to his family, believing he wouldn't make it through the night.
That's heartbreaking what helped him turn things around.
He found solace in prayer and a belief in a higher power. This shift in perspective gave him the strength to keep going, and remarkably, he made a full recovery both physically and financially.
That's an incredible testament to the power of faith and surrender. Sometimes letting go of the need to control everything is the best way to find peace.
Absolutely, and for those who aren't particularly religious, maybe it's about surrendering to the flow of life, trusting that things will eventually work out even if you don't have all the answers right now.
I love that it's about finding that sense of peace and acceptance regardless of your beliefs.
Now, here's a story that might resonate with those of us who are always on the go. Colonel Eddie Egan,
Right.
an Olympic athlete,
Okay.
found a simple but effective way to cope with worry: physical activity.
It's amazing how exercise can clear your head and shift your mood.
Right. Egan found that hitting the gym or going for a hike helped him release pent-up tension and gain a fresh perspective.
It's a good reminder to take care of our physical well-being,
Yeah.
not just for our bodies, but for our minds as well.
And for anyone who's ever struggled with academic pressure,
Okay.
there's the story of Jim Birdsall, who was plagued by worry throughout his college years. He was convinced he wasn't smart enough to succeed.
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of not being good enough. What helped him overcome those anxieties?
A wise professor taught him to analyze his worries, identify their root causes, and develop strategies for dealing with them. He learned to question his negative thoughts and approach his challenges with a more rational mindset.
It's so important to remember that our thoughts aren't always accurate reflections of reality. Sometimes we need to challenge those negative thought patterns and reframe our thinking.
Absolutely. And finally, we have Connie Mack, a baseball manager who endured an unprecedented losing streak, ending up in last place for 7 consecutive years.
Wow. Can't imagine the pressure and criticism he must have faced.
Right. But looking back on his long life, he said that his ability to handle that immense pressure came down to a few key principles.
Yeah.
Living in those day-tight compartments, focusing on doing his best each day, and letting go of the past.
That's a great reminder that we can't control everything that happens to us,
Right.
but we can control how we respond.
Exactly. And it's those choices, those
Yeah.
daily decisions to focus on the present, to do our best, and to let go of what we can't control, that ultimately determine our happiness and success.
All these stories are incredibly inspiring, but I'm wondering what stands out to you, dear listener, from all these amazing tales of resilience and triumph over worry. Which stories resonated most deeply with your own experiences and aspirations?
And as we wrap up this deep dive, consider this. If worry is, as Carnegie suggests, often a product of our thoughts and perceptions, what steps can you take today to cultivate a more positive and empowering mindset? Remember, even small shifts in perspective can lead to significant changes in how you experience life's challenges and ultimately find lasting happiness.
That's it for our deep dive into Dale Carnegie's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and practical tools for managing worry and creating a more fulfilling life. Until next time.